The cough didn't come from my throat, but it sounded exactly like my lungs giving out. I sat frozen in my ergonomic chair, my hand hovering over the spacebar. The time on my monitor read 3:14 a.m. The world outside my window was dead, buried under the heavy silence of a Tuesday night in the city. Inside my apartment, the only sound should have been the hum of my computer tower and the blood rushing in my own ears. I had coughed exactly 3 seconds ago, a dry, hacking sound because I'd swallowed my lukewarm energy drink down the wrong pipe. Then, from behind the drywall to my left, from Unit 4C, the apartment that had been vacant and locked tight for 6 months, it came back. Cough. It wasn't a muffled imitation. It wasn't a neighbor clearing their throat at the same time. It was identical. The same pitch, the same wet rattle at the end, the same pathetic squeak of air. It was my cough, played back to me through a layer of cheap plaster and paint. My skin went cold, that primal prickly feeling starting at the base of my spine and shooting up into my scalp. I slowly pulled my $500 noise-canceling headphones off my ears and set them on the desk. "Hello?" I whispered, my voice trembling just a little. 1, 2, 3. "Hello?" The wall whispered back. It wasn't an echo. Physics doesn't work like that in a 12 by 12 room. An echo bounces instantly. This was a replay. And whatever was on the other side of that wall wasn't just listening, it was recording. Chapter 1. The waveform on my monitor was jagged, ugly, and undeniably red. I stared at it, trying to make the math in my head make sense. I'm an audio engineer. Well, a freelance transcriptionist if you want to be polite, or a guy who types out boring legal depositions for peanuts if you want to be honest. But the point is, I know sound. I know frequencies. I know that sound waves travel at 343 meters per second. In a room this size, an echo should be instantaneous. A delay of 3 full seconds meant the sound had traveled roughly a kilometer and came back. Or it meant someone was playing a sick game. I rubbed my eyes, feeling the grit of exhaustion under my eyelids. "Elias, get a grip," I told myself. "You've been staring at screens for 12 hours. You're hearing things. You're finally cracking up." It wouldn't be the first time my brain betrayed me. That's why I live here, in this overpriced shoebox of a building. It's why I spent half my savings on soundproofing foam that lines the bedroom door. I have misophonia, a fancy word for I want to strangle people when they hear me chew gum. The world is a cacophony of wet mouths, clicking pens, and heavy breathing. I hate it. I need control. I need silence. Unit 4B was my sanctuary, and Unit 4C, the apartment next door, was the holy grail. It was empty. The landlord, Mr. Russo, told me the previous tenant did a midnight run back in October, and nobody had moved in since. I'd never heard a footstep, a toilet flush, or a TV. For 6 months, I had enjoyed the blissful silence of a ghost neighbor. Until tonight. I looked at the wall again. It was painted a bland, creamy beige. There was a small scuff mark near the floorboard where I'd bumped it with my vacuum cleaner last week. Just drywall. Hollow, cheap, standard issue apartment drywall. "Okay," I muttered to the empty room. "Let's test this. Scientific method." My heart was hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird, but my hands were steady. I reached for my boom microphone, a high-end piece of gear I used for the occasional voiceover gig, and swung the arm around. I pointed the mic directly at the shared wall, the dead zone. I hit record on my audio software. The track started scrolling, a flat green line of silence. I took a deep breath, raised my right hand and balled it into a fist. Knock, 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 knock. I rapped out the rhythm against the plaster, the classic shave and a haircut beat. I pulled my hand back and watched the screen. 1 second passed. The green line remained flat. 2 seconds passed.
My breath hitched in my throat. 3 seconds. Knock, 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 knock. The sound came from the wall. It wasn't a return knock. A return knock would sound like someone on the other side hitting the wall with their own hand, a dull thud muffled by the space between us. This wasn't that. This sound had the sharp, distinct crack of my knuckles hitting my side of the wall. It was crisp, it was textured, it was acoustically impossible. I stared at the waveform that appeared on the screen. I zoomed in. Every sound has a fingerprint: the attack, the decay, the sustain, the release. I dragged the cursor over my original knock and compared it to the response. They were identical. "No, no, no," I whispered, pushing my chair back. The wheels squealed against the hardwood floor. 1, 2, 3. "No, no, no," the wall whispered. The squeal of the chair followed, perfectly replicated. I stood up, backing away until my legs hit the edge of my bed. My apartment, usually my fortress, suddenly felt like a cage. The air felt too thick, too hot. If someone was in Unit 4C, they had to be using equipment, high-end equipment. They were recording me, waiting 3 seconds, and then blasting it back through what? Massive speakers pressed against the wall? But why? To drive me crazy? "Is someone there?" I shouted. My voice cracked. I sounded pathetic, like a scared kid calling for his mom after a nightmare. 1, 2, 3. "Is someone there?" the voice shouted back. It wasn't an impression, it was me. It captured the exact crack in my pitch, the tremor of fear. I grabbed a heavy glass water bottle from my desk. I felt the urge to throw it, to smash it against the beige paint and break the illusion, but I stopped. I'm not a violent guy. I'm the guy who writes polite emails to the management when the hallway lights buzz too loud. I don't smash things. I needed to see. I rushed to the window and unlatched it, shoving the pane up. The cool night air hit my sweaty face, smelling of exhaust and damp pavement. I leaned out, risking a look at the fire escape. My window led to the iron landing. To the left was the window for Unit 4C.
It was dark, pitch black. The blinds were drawn tight, thick slats coated in months of city dust. I strained my ears, my superpower that was usually a curse. I could hear the distant rumble of a train, the hum of the streetlights, the scuttle of a rat in the alley below. But from Unit 4C, nothing. No fan hum, no breathing, no movement. I pulled my head back in and slammed the window shut. Slam! 3 seconds later, the wall slammed. The vibration rattled the picture frame hanging above my desk. This was impossible. If they were playing it back through speakers, the bass would be different. The treble would be muddy. This sounded like the source originated inside my room, but was being projected from next door. I sat back down, my legs trembling so hard I couldn't stand anymore. I looked at the audio software again. I needed to know who this was, or what this was. I put my headphones back on, but I didn't plug them in. I just wore them around my neck, a comfort blanket. I leaned in close to the wall, pressing my ear against the cold plaster. I closed my eyes. "I know you're in there," I said, keeping my voice low, steady, controlled. I watched the second hand on my watch. 1, 2. "I know you're in there," the voice replied. I blinked. I checked the watch again. That wasn't 3 seconds, that was 2. The delay had shortened. My stomach dropped. A 3-second delay feels like a canyon. It feels like a safe distance. It's a lag. But 2 seconds? 2 seconds is a conversation. 2 seconds is closer. Why did it change? "Stop it," I hissed. "It's not funny." 1, 2. "Stop it. It's not funny."
The tone was mocking now, or maybe I was just projecting, but hearing my own voice stripped of the resonance inside my skull was horrifying. You never know what you really sound like until you hear a recording. I sounded weak. I sounded terrified. I grabbed a pen and a notepad. I needed to document this. 3:22 a.m. Delay reduced to 2.0 seconds. Source, wall 4C. I looked at the wall, focusing on that little scuff mark near the floor. It felt like the wall was looking back at me. "Who are you?" I asked. The question hung in the stale air of the apartment. I stared at the second hand. 1. Who are you? My breath hitched. 1 second. It was down to 1 second. The gap was closing. The buffer was disappearing. "What do you want?" I asked, fast, panic rising in my throat like bile. "What do you want?" Immediate, almost simultaneous, a split-second echo like a bad phone connection. I scrambled back from the wall, my chair tipping over with a crash. I didn't care about the noise anymore. I backed all the way to the kitchen counter, grabbing a steak knife from the drying rack. I didn't know why. I couldn't stab a sound, but the weight of the handle made me feel slightly less naked. I stood there, chest heaving, knife pointed at the empty beige wall. Silence returned to the room. Heavy, oppressive silence. I waited for the crash of the chair to echo back. I waited for my ragged breathing to return to me. Nothing. Had it stopped? Had the prankster realized they went too far? I lowered the knife slightly. "Hello?" I tested. The silence stretched. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. Nothing. I let out a long, shaky exhale. My shoulders slumped. It was over. Maybe it was some freak acoustic anomaly, some feedback loop in the pipes. I was tired. I was stressed. I needed sleep. I turned around to put the knife back in the sink. "Hello, Elias." I spun around, slashing the knife through the air. The voice hadn't come from the wall. It hadn't come with a delay. It had come from the wall, yes, but perfectly synchronized with the thought in my own head. And it didn't just repeat me this time, it used my name. And the most terrifying part? It was still my voice. It was the voice I heard in my head when I read a book. It was the internal monologue I had lived with for 30 years, suddenly externalized, stripped of my body, and speaking to me from the other side of the plaster. "You should really lock the deadbolt," my voice said from the other side of the wall. My eyes darted to my front door. The deadbolt was unlatched. "I'm coming over," my voice said. The doorknob to my apartment began to turn.